Please join me in welcoming Stacey Hanke to the stage.
How many of you have younger children? Anyone? Yeah? Now you know a younger child tends to not have volume control, sometimes not filter control, especially just when you need it the most. And there it happened. I have a girlfriend who has a 5-year-old son, Zachary, and Zachary is one of those children that has no volume control. And we were sitting in church. I am on Zachary's left, his mother's on his right. The pastor begins to deliver his sermon, and Zachary decides he has a couple of questions to ask. He looks up at his mother and he says, "Mommy, how old will I be when it's over?" I'm wondering how many of you, whether you are delivering a high-stakes presentation, you're in a face-to-face conversation, a virtual conversation, or facilitating a meeting, have you ever wondered if your listeners are thinking the same thing? When is this over? Whether you're communicating with your peers, your members, your vendors, communicating with influence Monday to Monday takes a lot of hard work, it takes skill, and it takes planning. And your fast-paced, ever-changing environment requires leaders that can transform their communication to create impact and influence Monday to Monday. Now, as much as we know this to be true, we live in a world of email, text, Facebook, tweets, Pinterest, Instagram, LinkedIn. Did I miss anything? You get the point. And no wonder it is so easy to overlook and take for granted how important face-to-face is. How many of you would agree that face-to-face communication is starting to become a lost art? You ever notice that? See, you walked in this room this morning not knowing what you don't know. Would you agree? And there's this little bit of this mystery of not really knowing what our listeners see and hear rather than what you believe to be true. I bet you can relate. How many of you have ever received feedback? And after maybe it's a presentation, maybe it's just a meeting that you facilitate, and you ask someone afterwards, "How did I do?" What do you typically hear? "Good, nice job." And you walk around life saying, "Well, everyone says I'm good." You realize that's not feedback, correct? In fact, that's the type of feedback. People are probably lying to you. Because either A, they don't know what to say, they don't have the guts to really tell you what's going on. I mean, communication, it can change our life if we allow it. I know that's a big statement, especially because you don't even know me. But if you put that into perspective and you think about from the time you stepped out of bed to where you are right now, how often have you communicated? A lot of head nods, a lot. We cannot not communicate. And I think as leaders in your industry, you've got to take a look. Because what will open up the door wider than it already is for your career, your personal and your professional relationships is when you take a close look at what your listeners see and hear rather than what you believe to be true. See, there's this misperception out there that says our title predicts the level of influence that we have. I also hear many individuals say, "Well, Stacey, I do this all the time. I communicate all the time, therefore I'm good." Influence is not a badge of honor that suddenly you achieve. To me, influence, here's the difference between someone who's a good communicator versus someone who's influential. A good communicator, they're not consistent. And they get caught up in their stuff. Do you know people like that? You can tell when they're caught up in their own dialogue. And as long as you get caught up in your head, you're missing out on the level of influence I bet you've got the capacity to meet, yet you may not be aware of it. And an influential communicator, not only do they pay attention to what's happening up here, they pay attention to what's happening around them. Here's where it's the focus part. And they pay close attention to what happens between them and their listener. They're able to weave the whole experience together and change the message on the fly without ever skipping a beat. Can you feel the level of focus that takes? I want to take you there. In the short time frame that we have together this morning, how about you do a pulse check? How about you just let go of everything that you know and everything that you believe to be true? And for the next couple of minutes with me, do a reality check on what you already know about how you communicate and how you can transform that to make sure you have influence Monday to Monday. See, Monday to Wednesday doesn't work. Tell me if you can relate. How many of you have ever tried to lose weight, get on a health plan? Anyone? You don't want to admit it, right? Yeah. What typically happens? We fall off the wagon because Monday to Wednesday we're really good, and the rest of the time we fall off the wagon. You cannot be influential Monday to Wednesday or just when the gig is big, when the stakes are high. To me, the difference between someone who's good versus someone who's consistent is no matter where the conversation is, no matter how you interact with someone, you are constantly perceiving them as confident, credible, influential. But there's distractions that we create. And I bet you've seen some of the distractions. The first distraction, you get caught up in your own head. What happens when you go back to the office after this conference, after this event? You go back to your office and someone meets you in the hallway. Maybe it's your executive team, your board team, and they say to you, you just attended MPI and IMAX last week, correct? You say, yeah, I did. And they ask you, well, we would love a recap. In 30 minutes, why don't you meet us back in the boardroom, and we'd like you to put together a 30-minute recap. We'll see you in 30. Now, some of you might strive on that. You're hungry for that. Others of you today, you might be able to relate to this quote. Have you been there? There are always 3 types of conversations that you will have. It's the one you prepare, it's the one you actually give, and it's the one you wish you gave. Yeah, you tell me I'm not alone? And sometimes you're done with the conversation, you have to nudge the person next to you and ask them, what just happened? See, because you get caught up in your own head. But what we also get caught up in is our level of comfort. Many of my executive clients will say to me, but Stacey, if I'm comfortable, I'm good. If I know my topic, I'm perceived good. Those two don't equal. And that's why I want you to just let go of what you know. And I'm going to have you just do that little bit of a temperature check to test to see how is your communication. Is it as good as you want it to be, or is there more opportunity to expand it? Take a piece of paper in front of you. If you don't have a paper, you can take my hand out. You can write on the back of it or write on the palm of your hand. I want you to write down 2 adjectives. 2 adjectives that best describe how you want to be perceived, no matter who you speak to, no matter what environment that is in. What perception do you want others to create of you? And write those down. No matter what communication medium, what perception do you want others to always have of you? What are some of those adjectives that you wrote down? Approachable, confident, calm, fun, knowledgeable, authentic, honest, trustworthy is key, correct? Loyal. How about in the back?
Passionate.
Thank you. Passionate. How about in the back corner over here? Genuine. I asked this same question a couple of weeks ago at another conference, and there's a gentleman way in the back, and he yelled out, I want to be perceived as godlike. I said to him, you're at the wrong show. Can't help you that. Now, next to those 2 adjectives, I want you to write down 1 misperception you believe people may have of you. And this one you don't have to share with anyone. What is that 1 perception you wonder if people have of you? Now, whether you wrote down confident, trustworthy, credible, knowledgeable, it's about making sure that no matter whom talks to you, no matter what medium they have that interaction with you in, that is that perception they always create of you. See, influence to me is beyond asking for a call to action. Influence to me is what can I do and say with you today that I have impact on you 3 days from now, 3 weeks from now, 3 years from now.